plastic surgery, we can identify three groups with diverse perspectives: the plastic surgeon, plastic surgery societies and journals, and the patient and the public. Each has different purposes and goals, and within each group there are diversity of perspectives. The plastic surgeon focuses on practice growth, educating the public, and professional development. Let's take a look to see what our panelists do on social media. If we look at Dr. Yoon's Facebook feed, we can see that he's posted a video called In the OR Friday. He's teaching about facelift and blepharoplasty. So this is educational, and he's making education approachable. This is a post that I found on Dr. Hadid's Instagram feed. Again, he is in the operating room, and he's teaching about transgender surgery, and we can find a video if we go to his Snapchat feed, he tells us on this post. Now, Dr. Branford tweets a lovely photo of art, and it's art that connects with the human body. So he's branding and humanizing plastic surgery. The patient and the public are interested in our specialty because plastic surgery is interesting, entertaining, and mysterious. Celebrities attract interest, especially when they have plastic surgery, such as Ms. Kardashian's curves here, and of course we all know about the Angelina effect. Our societies and journals focus on professional and public education. ASPS has posted this on Twitter. Anyone can wear a white coat. Not everyone is board certified in plastic surgery. So they're branding plastic surgeons. PRS has a Twitter journal club, and they allow interaction, live interaction with their authors. They also have on Facebook a PRS Grand Rounds, which they have on Facebook Live, and this too allows interaction with their guests. We can see from all these awards that PRS is recognized for its innovation in social media and the digital world. And in fact, just this year, they are the finalists for these awards in social media and digital innovation, and the winners will be determined on Tuesday. But is there a dark side to social media? Just last spring, Plastic Surgery News published an article in which they said ASPS members' use of social media is a double-edged sword with which society leadership continues to struggle. In the past, print ads, journals, conference videos, and print lay articles have lain separately in different silos, not to be mixed. But now, conference videos, journals, website images, and social media all mixed together in a very interesting soup. Now let's look to our panelists to help us understand social media. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about our panelists. Dr. Anthony Yoon is in solo practice in Michigan, and his practice is 100% aesthetic. He is a two-time best-selling author and a frequent guest of national television shows, including The Rachel Ray Show and The Doctors. He's the host of the Holistic Plastic Surgery Show podcast, and he's a member of the ASPS Public Education Committee, chair of the ASAP's Media Committee, and a member of the ASAP Social Media Task Force. He has 47,000 likes on Facebook, 17,000 followers on Twitter, and 11,000 followers on Instagram. Dr. Joseph Hadid is in solo private practice in Beverly Hills with satellite offices in Miami and Abu Dhabi. His practice is approximately 80% reconstructive and 20% aesthetic, with a focus on gender affirmation procedures. He's a member of the ASPS Social Media Subcommittee, and he has 53,000 followers on Instagram, 64,000 followers on Twitter, and 9,000 followers on Facebook. Dr. Branford is an academic plastic surgeon in London. His practice is 100% reconstructive with a focus on microsurgical breast reconstruction. He is a member of the ASPS Social Media Subcommittee and is on the editorial board of PRS Global Open. Dr. Branford and co-authors published an article in PRS on the use of the plastic surgery hashtag, which he helped popularize among the plastic surgery community to increase awareness of our specialty on social media. He has 155,000 followers on Twitter, 4,000 followers on Instagram, and 1,000 friends on Facebook. Now let's ask questions of our experts. Dr. Yoon, how is Facebook different from the other social media apps, and why did you choose to focus on Facebook over the other social media apps?
So I think the first thing you need to consider is who's your avatar. And the idea about an avatar is who is your ideal patient. So if your ideal patient, if you're somebody like myself where I do breast augmentation, lipotucks, and facelifts, it's kind of a wide spectrum. If, however, you specialize in a certain type of a surgery, let's say you only do facial surgery, then going after a social media outlet that matches that avatar is going to make more sense to you. So, for example, if you like doing breast augmentation, BBLs, and tummy tucks, then going with Snapchat, which has a much younger demographic, may make more sense to you. So I chose Facebook because it has the widest demographic of all. Plus, Facebook allows me to do more than just put up pictures like on Instagram and video. For Twitter, this is Twitter that I find is very good for colleague-to-colleague interaction, but not necessarily for me to actually get patients to follow me. Whereas on Facebook, I pretty much do all of that. Now, the one negative with Facebook, though, just a quick tip, is that it's more and more becoming a pay-to-play platform. And so your organic reach, the amount of people that see your posts, is decreasing. Hi, Karen. Is decreasing literally every month, it seems like. And so they force you to actually pay money to get more people to see your posts. One way you get around that is, if you haven't done much Facebook before, is don't set up a business page yet. Start by setting up a second personal page. So you may have a personal page with pictures of your mom and your kids and stuff. That should be separate. But you should start up a personal page that basically is a business account. If you use that, you can go up to 5,000 friends, okay, before they force you to either stop taking new people or switch it over to a business page. But the benefit of it being a personal page, if you have less than 5,000 quote-unquote friends or followers, is you're going to get much, much better organic reach. So on my personal page, if I accepted 5,000 people and I posted something, maybe I'll get 1,000 people for free look at that. But that same post, if I put on my business page, may only get 500 people. So the idea then is, if you're going to start with a personal page, brand it for your business, and then once you hit that 5,000, then switch over to the business page, and that's when it really becomes more of a pay-to-play.
Now, Dr. Hadid, it looks like you have some similarities with Dr. Yoon's posts. Since all the social media platforms are different, how do you decide what content to specifically post on Instagram?
So just to piggyback a little bit off of what Dr. Yoon was saying, you have to know who your target audience is and what you're trying to accomplish. On Instagram, it's a very visual platform, so people are interested in pictures, videos, and I found that I could use it to educate the public as well. Going off of what Dr. Yoon said, Twitter doesn't really, people really aren't interested in seeing pictures on Twitter, although tweets with pictures seem to do a little bit better than tweets without pictures. But really, Twitter is more of a news platform or a way to exchange ideas with other people, to be collegial with your colleagues. Instagram, I've found, helps me connect more with patients, because patients tend to ask a lot of questions, whether it's comments that they leave underneath each post, or maybe sometimes they'll send me a direct message and say, I've noticed that you had a good result about your breast augmentation. Tell me more about it. How much is the recovery? So I found it's a little bit more interaction with potential patients.
So, Dr. Branford, your thing is Twitter. How do you build a following on social media? And I don't know if you could sort of synthesize what the other two have said.
Sure. So I think the two main ways of doing that are, firstly, by producing content, and the second thing is to engage with others. So as plastic surgeons, we have a lot of content. We write our articles, we have blogs, We have a lot of journal articles, those of our colleagues, and I think our role really is to educate, not self-promote. So I think the first thing is content. I think content is king. I think the other way to get the following is to engage with others. So you have to be nice. Social media is social. To permit the cycling analogy, if you're following someone with a lot more followers, you engage with them and they interact with you, you'll benefit from the fact that they've got a greater following. And I think certainly if you interact with the journals, when you post your articles, if you put a tag to the journal, probably within a few hours they will repost what you're saying. So I would say that dual approach.
Dr. Yoon, what suggestions do you have for someone to be successful on Facebook? You're quite successful yourself.
Number one, just like Lydia said, is it comes down to engagement. And so ideally, if you want to get active on social media, if you haven't been yet, you want to pick one or two channels that you spend most of your time on. And ideally, once again, looking at your avatar, pick the channel that most matches where your ideal patient's going to be at. Now, if you want to be successful on Facebook, I gave you that suggestion as far as starting at a personal page and switching to the business page later. But really, what people want is literally daily engagement. Now, ideally on Facebook, you should post at least once a day, up to 3 times a day, but ideally not much more than that, because they're going to actually decrease the amount of people who follow us. So if you love posting all day and you love putting little messages and stuff out there, go with Twitter, because Facebook you're going to get much, much less people watch you. If you're okay to post 1 to 3 times a day and you like posting a wide variety of things, that's what people on Facebook are looking for. So links to blogs, do a daily video, a photo that you upload. If you like doing a wide variety of stuff, then that's what you should do on Facebook, and then always answer their messages when they comment on stuff.
And Dr. Hadid, you mentioned reaching out to patients. How can you leverage Instagram to attract more prospective patients to your practice?
So I think one of the big things that you have to decide is what role do you want your Instagram page to play. For me, it wasn't just about posting pictures of before and after photos. It was more about creating a brand. And for me personally, that brand was more of I wanted to create more of a lifestyle kind of page. So in addition to posting pictures of before and after results, I'll post a picture of a nice beach somewhere, a picture of a beautiful like acai bowl or a piece of fruit, some wildflowers perhaps. Interestingly enough, I've found that patients seem to, or I should say that my target audience seems to enjoy these posts more than my before and after photos. I'll post something that I'm really proud of myself as far as a great surgical result, and I'll get maybe 250 or 300 likes. But I'll post a quote like "love is in the air" or something ridiculous like that, and it gets like 3,000 likes. So, go figure. But I think it's just trying to figure out what message do you want to convey to your audience. Is it going to be strictly surgical? Are you going to include pictures from your personal life, whether it's you being at home with your kids or hanging out with your office staff outside of work? So I think you have to figure out what's going to be best for you in your practice. And then once you've figured out what theme you want, then you could post things that match that theme. Because you want to be consistent across what you're posting. If you're posting a bunch of random stuff that don't seem to tie together, then I think you're going to lose a lot of people. People aren't going to want to follow you. People on Instagram, I found, want to follow you for a specific reason. And in my case, it was more about creating a lifestyle brand where people can just kind of feel relaxed. Also with Instagram, you do want to post aesthetically pleasing pictures. So if a picture's out of focus or it's a little dim, it's not even worth posting it. Filters are a great way to improve some of the pictures that you take, but just make sure that what you post is consistent.
Dr. Branford, what is your advice about what content to post on social media?
Sure. So picking up a little bit from my contemporaries, I think the main thing is that we get a lot of feedback instantly when we post on social media. So you can kind of see the things that people like and you post more of that. If you look at, there's a lot of statistics on different things that you post. The internet's becoming much more visual. About 80% of the traffic is now video. I think if you post a photograph, you get a doubling of your engagement. I think with video, that's probably even more the case. A lot of people are posting GIFs at the moment, and I think my most retweeted and liked post was a GIF which had about 3,500 likes in, I think, 3 days. I think to some extent, when you gain a certain amount of following, you become a little bit of a broadcaster, and I think in that way, not so much an entertainer, but you have to have a feed that people want to come to and look at. So I think those are the main things.
Can I just add
Yeah.
one thing? So perception is everything in social media. If you start up an account and you've got 45 followers, like your friends and your parents, it's going to be hard to gain traction. So if you want to start developing a following on Instagram, there are a number of companies out there that you pay like upwards of $80 to $150 a month, and they will literally 2,000 to 5,000 posts from other people who are following people that are similar to you, and that will help you actually gain followers. Now, this isn't buying like fake followers. There's one called Kickstagram, and there's a lot of people in this room and presenting here that pay Kickstagram every month to help them get followers. I pay them. I pay them every month to help me get followers. And that only works for Instagram. But they're real followers. What they'll do is they'll like 2,000 different posts from people who like people like Joe. And so then you will actually poach some of these followers because they'll say, hey, Dr. Yoon's similar to Dr. Haddad. Maybe I'll follow him too. And so there are a lot of these types of companies out there that can help gain you followers as long as you are posting regularly, because people are only going to follow you if you actually have true content.
I've got a question for all of you in like 2 sentences. What does the future hold? Is we're at the cutting edge. What's around the corner? Do you have any idea?
What I think is around the corner is something I haven't quite figured out yet, and if you guys figure it out, let me know. It's messaging. So Facebook is putting a ton of money into Messenger and Messenger apps, and all the young people are all texting and stuff. That, I think, is the future, but I haven't quite figured out how to do it on a mass scale, and I don't want to answer everybody's individual messages. And bots doing messaging, that's the future.
Bots doing messaging.
Yes.
So can I pull out a little bit more? Is this
So
a good thing or a bad thing?
There are programs now that are being developed where if somebody sends you a private message, depending on what they ask you, there's an automated bot that will reply to them. Okay, because there are these what's the name for it? But there are these what do you call it when you have like decision trees?
Algorithm?
Yeah, that type of thing where people will, there's certain questions that people will always ask. How much does this cost? You know, what's your office address and stuff like that. And people are developing these bots that will actually answer these questions automatically, so you don't have to go and answer each one. That is the future of this, as well as messaging, but it's not quite here yet. And like I said, if you can figure out how that works, please send me an email and let me know.
So,
Dr. Hadid?
So I think that's a very interesting question, and I think part of it is on a lot of social media platforms, plastic surgery is very sensationalized. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the article that came out recently that said 17.6% of plastic surgeons on Instagram are board certified by the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, which means 80+% of so-called plastic surgeons are not really plastic surgeons. So I think there may be a little bit of blowback from the public, perhaps, as more and more of these unqualified professionals start doing more and more cosmetic-related procedures. We've all seen our fair share of complications in our practice from patients that have gone to non-qualified professionals. So I think I really see social media as being more of an educational tool going forward in the future, especially if ASPS members take it upon themselves to try to get the messaging out to the public. And that way I think we'll control a little bit more of the narrative in terms of what kind of image do we want to project to the general public as far as how they perceive plastic surgeons and plastic surgery.
And Dr. Branford.
So I'd say the future, and looking at the changes over the last couple of years, with people going more towards the visual platforms, I think the future is definitely video and photographs, done in a responsible way that doesn't trivialize plastic surgery. Dr. Schill, who's here, I think in the audience somewhere, has written an article on Snapchat. And I think it's important for plastic surgeons to get involved with social media effectively to dilute all the dodgy marketing practices that are out there by non-plastic surgeons. I think we all have phones. I think they're very functional in terms of producing video. You don't need a camera team. I don't think you should always respect patient confidentiality. The video should never trivialize surgery. So I think using emoticons I think is not a good idea. I think as long as we do it responsibly, I think PRS is very supportive video, and certainly that's the way people are voting with their feet.
People are learning about plastic surgery no longer from TV, although Bosch does get a lot of people. But if you're really looking to educate the public, it's Instagram. Snapchat, if you look at their numbers, the numbers are declining. Instagram is expanding. Facebook is a behemoth, but they understand that for the young people, they're not on Facebook anymore. So everything now is Instagram. If you look at Instagram, they're basically doing everything that Snapchat has been doing, and they're trying to basically shut Snapchat down. So Periscope is dead. That was owned by Twitter. Twitter, I think, is very interesting because it's kind of like the independent one out there, but Facebook is a big behemoth. And if you want to get started, if you like doing video, go with Instagram. If you hate being on camera, go with Facebook.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think Instagram is the way forward. I think you can have more than one platform that you concentrate on. I think it's worth having your primary one, and I think you don't need completely different posts for the other platform. I use Instagram for branding and Twitter for academia, so I think that's the way forward.
I think AI has taken over the world. We're all doomed. No, I do think that it's interesting. I attended a talk a couple of weeks ago on artificial intelligence, and I think there will be a role for it as it slowly becomes incorporated into various social media platforms. So I think it'll be interesting to see where social media evolves over the next few years.
Great, thank you. I'd like to take questions from the audience. Yes, thanks, Tim.
So this one is, okay. Thanks, guys. You guys are all gurus of social media. One thing that I learned sort of the hard way is with the automated likes, you do need to track that and know what your account is following if you are paying for likes or for followers. If you put hashtags in, things that you think are innocuous, like breast implants, and you find yourself, your account is now following or liking posts that may be sort of inappropriate for a professional account to be following, you have to delete that, and your followers will know that you're liking and following those things. So just be a little bit careful if you do enroll in any of those services, that you track it very closely.
So that's a good point. There are some of these services will just like posts by people who follow, like Heather and Olivier and stuff, and others of them will actually have you follow other people, and that's when it can get a little bit crazy.
Any other comments?
Just make a...
Just a question about boosting posts on Facebook. How effective do you find that in terms of translating into patients who ultimately have surgery?
That's not something I've tracked. I think in the end, the idea is you want to nurture your audience. And so the idea is not that, okay, I'm going to put $20 here on a post and I'm going to get 2 people call from it. It's going to be trying to just get your information out there. People get to know you. This isn't, it's not like an ad where people see your Facebook page once and they're going to call you. The idea is for them to get to know you as a person. And that's why Joe was saying before that, I put personal stuff on there and people love it. I put something, I find the same thing, It's interesting. I'm friends with Michael Salzhauer, and he said that he was on Instagram and he couldn't get anything going. And one of his patients said, "Why are you putting all your personal stuff on Instagram? We want to see your surgeries." He put his surgeries on Instagram and Snapchat and exploded. So they want to see they want to see your surgery, they want to see your before and afters. But once they start trusting you there, now that's when you put the personal stuff and they start getting to know you. And the idea, Matthew Schulman, who's huge on Snapchat and Instagram, one of the things that he did is an internal study and found that the patients that found him via social media, his closure rate, sign-up rate was like over 75-80%. Whereas those ones that saw, heard of him through the grapevine or whatever, it was like 40-45%. So you can't put a number on, I boost it $20, what I'm going to get. It's the fact that people are going to see you over and over again, and eventually when they want something, they'll come to you, and they'll pretty much already have signed up. You just have to, meet them, and they're ready to go.
So how much money are you spending on Facebook to boost your posts?
So I pay anywhere from $10 to $50 to boost my posts. Now, I'm a little different because I also have a podcast that I've been trying to promote, the Holistic Plastic Surgery Show. My second guest. And so I put more money into that, but that's a whole other thing. But for my just practice stuff, anywhere from $20 to $50 usually.
And daily?
No, maybe once or twice a week.
Okay, thanks.
So I don't use Facebook very much for exactly that reason. I think the whole point of social media is that you can control it and it's free. So I think if you're having to pay people, there's not much point. I get approached by a lot of marketing companies asking me to pay them to promote my feed. Some of them have about 200 followers. So I think the point is that you don't really need the marketing teams. And I think a lot of the marketing teams don't really understand plastic surgery. And I think they will post things that won't necessarily represent your ethical code. So it does take a bit of a time investment, but you can become very efficient. I think probably I use social media for about 20 minutes, once or twice a day. I think to start with, it's a real marathon and not a sprint, and I think you have to persist. I think your number of followers becomes exponential with time. I think if you're starting to pay companies, then it sort of defeats the point of doing the social media.
Can I give a real quick tip on the boost? Real quick tip on the boost. If you're going to boost your post and your actual goal is to get patients in your office, you want to make sure that the geographic region is limited to your town or your vicinity, because the last thing you want to do is pay to boost a post and find that it's somebody in Omaha that you just paid 10 cents to have them see it.
And I'll just make an additional comment about boosting. On Instagram, for example, you cannot boost your before and after photos. That goes against Instagram's policies. So you can boost a picture of your dog passed out in the corner. That's acceptable. But what I found...
You can't do that either on Facebook.
On Facebook, and I think because Facebook owns Instagram now, so which makes sense. What I've found as far as boosting is concerned, if I add a new blog to my website, I'll post it on Twitter to link to my blog, and I have my Twitter and my Facebook business page linked together, so when I post it on Twitter, it automatically posts to Facebook, and I'll post that just so I could get a little bit more traffic coming back to my website, which in turn will, in theory, increase your SEO rankings.
Can I give one more tip? One more tip too is if you're not, you should have an email list for your practice, like on Constant Contact or there's a free one. I'm blanking on the name. But what you ideally want to do is fairly often then post on, let's say, Facebook about your practice, put a link so that they go to your website and hopefully sign up on your website. Because, there's so many social media outlets that have come and gone, Friendster, MySpace, and all that. The last thing you want to do is spend all this money on an outlet that shuts down 5 years from now. Ideally, you want to capture those leads on an email list too.
Now, Dr. Yoon, you said that you don't track specifically like posts linked to patients. Do you have any do you survey your patients to see where they came from, and is your social media, are your efforts effective in drawing patients into your practice? And question for all of them.
Yeah, that's actually, we should probably ask Joe. I've had my practice, I've booked out 1.5 years for new consults, and so I'm not really using social media to actually track how many patients come into the office. So I should probably ask Joe what he does.
Yeah, so on my EMR, I actually have a referral source where I could track where the patients are coming from. And I don't have the firm numbers for you, but if I had to guess, I'd say approximately 25% of my patients' new consults come from social media, and Instagram being the primary one for my practice. So it has been, for me, effective.
I would say for me, but I work in breast reconstruction. I probably get about 10% of the people following me asking me to perform their aesthetic surgery for them. So I think, if I get sometimes some months about 17,000 new followers, so that could be quite potentially lucrative. But certainly with my breast reconstruction patients, I found that probably 90% of them have checked me out on social media. And certainly they've chosen me over someone else because they've kind of got to know me, they've got to trust me, they've seen the articles that I've published. So I think that's the way I would use it.
Dr. Christopher.
Phenomenal tips, all of you. Thanks very much. I've got a follow-up question for Dr. Yoon about Kickstagram. Is there geographic targeting with that?
No, my understanding with that, and there's a number of other ones. I think there's one called Beautygram, I think, is another one, where basically you'll just put people like Sheila Nazarian, Karen Horton, Heather Furness, and basically they'll target those people who follow them, like those people's posts. Those people will see, oh, Dr. Yoon liked my post, which I didn't like. I don't know who that is. And they may end up following you. So what you'll find is that you just have this gradual increase in the number of followers. And they're not fake, because you can also pay companies. Like you can pay a company, there's a company called fastfollowers.com with a Z, Fast Followers. It's something like $59 and you get 5,000 Twitter followers out of it. Well, these 5,000 Twitter followers are real people, but they're not going to engage with you. I don't know how they get them. And there are actually even websites you can go to that can look and see how many of certain people's followers are actually fake, which is kind of interesting because I put some people's names in there and it's like, oh, this person has 150,000 followers and like 98% of them are actually fake.
Thanks.
Another comment?
Yeah, I will say my own personal opinion is buy followers with caution because, as Tony said, you could have 1 million followers, but if most of them aren't responding to your post, and you could tell actually if you look at people with a lot of followers, if somebody has 1 million followers but they're only getting 100 or 200 likes per post, you could have a pretty good sense that most of their followers are going to be fake. So what we really want are real followers. Unfortunately, you have to kind of grow it organically. One thing that I would recommend, and it seems to work, I think, a little bit on Twitter maybe, and maybe you could add a comment about it, but when you start following people on Twitter, usually they'll follow you back. So, you could build up a pretty big following of Twitter over time. I think Instagram has a limit to the number of followers that you personally can follow. I think it's around 7,000 or 8,000 people, but Twitter, to my knowledge, is unlimited with the number of people that you could follow. So, at least for Twitter, that would be a good way to get your real followers up.
I would be very wary about doing any of these things. I would really recommend just having good content, and that's the best way to have biggest digital exposure and to gain a following. And I think to engage with key opinion leaders. So a lot of plastic surgeons now have 20, 30, 40,000 followers. If you engage with them, you benefit from that engagement. So I think there's really very little point in doing anything automated or where you have to pay for it.
Question
Sarah?
for the panelist. What % of your non-invasive patients follow you on social media?
Yeah,
like
we don't-
Botox filler.
Yeah, I don't follow that, but I know I get a lot. So what I did about 4 months ago is I hired a full-time social media person in-house. So we do daily videos every day, either of surgery or injections and stuff like that, and that has increased our engagement big time. But the problem is it's expensive to get people to hire an employee to do that. At my talk I gave yesterday, there's a couple other things you can do if you want to save a little bit of money. You can outsource it to somebody else. There's a website called hiremymom.com where these are stay-at-home moms who are involved with social media, stuff like that, and you can hire them to, part-time help you post on social media. There's even places you can outsource. There's one, I think it's called Virtual Assistant or something.com from the Philippines. You pay them $3 an hour, $3.50 an hour, and they can help you with your posts. But they're not in-house, so you have to send them the information and they can help you. But we don't track specifically how many of our patients. I do have a lot of patients who'll tell me, oh yeah, I've seen you and this and that.
So I'd say as far as my non-invasive patients go, I don't do a whole lot of non-invasive procedures in my office. I just don't have that kind of volume for the non-invasive. So my percentage is probably a little bit higher. Maybe 80% of my non-invasive patients come from Instagram, only because they've been following me and they maybe will see a picture of lip injection that I did and they liked it, so they'll come in. But the caveat is that even though I have a high percentage of my non-invasives coming from social media, I don't have a high volume overall of non-invasives.
So for me, pretty much all my reconstructive patients follow me, as I said. I guess if I were to post saying that I'm starting my aesthetic practice, it would be interesting to see what the number of take-ups would be. I'll let you know maybe next year.
Great. Dr. Lin.
Congratulations to everyone, and congratulations to Ali, Heather, for elevation status in PRS. I think we going to keep running into the problem with the fact that there are just more non-board certified plastic surgeons than there are out there on social media. So I wonder if you guys could comment on tactics to kind of get, in general, more people involved in plastic surgery. Obviously, everyone here in the audience is interested in it. Maybe boiling it down to the top 1 or 2 things, which platform, what to do, because it sort of seems like all of a sudden it's like inertia, like where do I even start? There's just so many things I could do out there. I could pay, I could outsource, or just do it by yourself. Thank you.
I actually, that Instagram story came out and they're saying 18%. The interesting thing, if you look at that 18% that are board certified plastic surgeons, the 80 whatever percent that aren't, a lot of them are actually plastic surgeons, but they're from other countries. So if you actually look at the study, the results are a little bit skewed because there are a lot of posts from people outside this country, and I don't know if they're board certified or not. Also, there are a lot of posts from PAs and stuff like that too. But if I were to give, what was the question? Do you remember the question?
What advice would you give for like educating the public?
Oh, okay. I think the big thing is you interact with the big societies, and so you repost, retweet stuff from PRS. You know, I'm chairman of Media Relations Committee for ASAPS, who mentioned, my co-chair. And so we're also been trying to be active in trying to promote. So share stuff from the society. Interestingly, I shared something from ASPS, I think yesterday, and I think it did better than like 90% of my posts. It was about the importance of chemical peels and stuff. So that's what I would do, is just keep sharing stuff from PRS, from ASPS, from ASAPS.
I think the one key tip I would say is use hashtags. So I don't know if you've read the article #plastic surgery, but when we ran that a couple of years ago, we found that about 10% of the people posting using the hashtag were plastic surgeons. Now it's well over 90%. And we've gone from pretty much not using the hashtag at all to having 5 billion impressions per year just through Twitter alone using the hashtag. So I think it's what hashtags do is they aggregate content and they make it very easy for patients to find information about plastic surgery. And I think there's a real appetite for science and information, and we're the people that should be delivering it.
I think the only thing I'll add is I agree with using the plastic surgery hashtag. I'm also a big fan of using the do your homework hashtag, especially on Twitter. I try to make it a point to at least once a week make some post across one of my platforms about educating the public on the importance of choosing a board-certified plastic surgeon. I feel that if we as a society could control the message that's getting out there, that will diminish the role of non-board certified plastic surgeons and the potential harm that they could do to the public.
Yes, just an additional comment. I was in Paris with Dr. Nahai this year talking about regulation in plastic surgery, and it's, I think the challenges that internationally are very similar. I think it's difficult to have regulation. I think one way we can work around that is to use social media as a form of education, and that can be our way of guiding the public towards who to trust and what treatments to trust.
Just another quick tip, something that Olivia said earlier, is the future is video and pictures, but more video. And if you do video, you may be like me, where you're on your phone at night and you page through and you see all these videos. Make sure you add captions, okay? And you can add captions. Basically, all you do is you post your video, and then once it's posted, you go back to edit it, and you can add captions. And Facebook will actually create these kind of rudimentary captions. So correct it and post it, because then you're going to have people who are just kind of scrolling through their feed, and they may stop, and it may be at night, and their wife's sleeping next to them, and you don't want to wake them up, but you can read the captions, and you can get a lot more people watching. And even if they're technically not clicking on it, they'll actually watch your whole video and read it. And that's just another way to get more people watching you.
Great tip. Sarah.
Do you have policies for your mid-levels with social media?
Yeah, we have all of our patients that come in. We have on their intake form a question whether they'd be okay if we film this for social media, and so we have a very specific page that we print out. I actually had an attorney go over it. If any of you guys are interested, you can email me. I'm happy to send it to you. It's TonyYoonMD@yahoo.com, and it was vetted by the ASAP's attorney, and it's basically then a social media release, and allows them basically they sign it and allows us to basically use whatever they give us.
I meant more of, that's very, very helpful, but I meant more of your mid-levels, like your PAs, NPs, nurses. Do you have a policy?
No, they just do it. If they have a patient who's interested, then they'll do it.
No, I mean posting on... Okay, they don't post for you. And then what about if they're posting on their own from your practice?
So every post that goes out has to go through our practice's platform account, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The employees should not be posting pictures of patients on their personal platforms. Everything should come through the practice's account.
Did I answer it?
Yes.
So I do all my posting myself. I don't let anyone else do it. I think it's impossible to retract something that you put out there that you don't agree with. I think it doesn't take that much time, and I think it saves you a lot of money on marketing.
I think the key is that if you want to be big on social media, you really have to enjoy it yourself. You can't outsource this. You can't have other people write all your posts for you. Now, I do have an employee that will put a few things out for me, but everything is vetted to me. You really have to enjoy social media. If you don't want it, if the thought of doing social media is like, oh, I don't want to do it, then probably best not to waste your time.
And I would agree with that. And one other comment about it, like my website company that I'm switching from, they had like a social media, surcharge for doing X number of posts a week. And I found that even the hashtags of my brand of my practice name, that is the hashtag I'm trying to popularize, they wouldn't get it right. So they would have a variant of it, but it's not the same hashtag. So you really do need to control the content, just as you are controlling of the work product you deliver in your work life.
I bought a Mirror Drive several years ago, and they gave me like 6 months of this like social media like company. They're going to help you to sell out stuff. And I get calls from my wife like, "Oh, you posted this great quote from Maya Angelou today." I'm like, "What? No way!" So you have to make sure that it's in your voice.
So I advise quite a few global companies on their marketing now, which is very bizarre as a plastic surgeon from England. But I think the reason being that you should control it yourself is that we have a completely different approach to marketing teams. And I think that's why we have a big following. I think some of us have got more followers than some of the leading dermatology and beauty companies. So to think that you should use traditional marketing techniques kind of doesn't make sense. So I think, do it yourself, produce content, and I think that will be successful in itself.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I do agree with controlling the content yourself. With minor exceptions, you could outsource it maybe to somebody in your office, but you really should be the one responsible for driving the content and the message you want to get out there.
Thank you very much. I want to remind everyone to, if you're posting anything about this meeting, include the hashtag PSTM17. I'm delighted to have worked with these wonderful panelists. Thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed this, and thank you for attending.